Hello, everyone, and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann. You can call me H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q. H, I know we pitch games at each other every week, but I've designed a game that I think maybe we could start incorporating into the show. No.
You've done more homework than has ever been done on the show before.
Yeah, I know. I went all the way through the trouble, and you know, listeners to this show know you have a fantastic breadth of video game knowledge. I feel like I can't name a single indie thing or whatever, and you just know it. You just know it. It's crazy. And so,
well, thank you.
What I've done here is I've made a game for you that I'm calling Government Memo Games. The reason I'm calling it that is because the government, if people don't know, when they create a memo, sometimes they will black out or redact certain sections of it so that you can't read it. And so I've gone to Metacritic and found different games descriptions, their summaries, and I've redacted them like government memos out of anything that is specifically identifiable.
So is this like the top of page summary on Metacritic, the one that kind of like describes the general consensus to the game, or what?
Yes, and I have 100% faith that you are not going to cheat and go and Google this on.
No, I'm not going to cheat.
Okay. But we could potentially make this an end of the show thing, but I've got one for you to try now. What do you think?
Well, let's hit me, and then we can revisit at the end of the show. That'll give people something to kind of look forward to, and kind of sandwich the episode.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can ease you into it, and I think people who know this one will be able to follow along. So, as a young boy, Redacted is tricked by Redacted, the king of the redacted. It keeps going. The evil human uses Redacted to gain access to the sacred realm, where he places his tainted hands on Redacted and transforms the beautiful redacted landscape into a barren wasteland. There's a little bit more, but let me know if you need me to keep going.
Sacred Realm sounds so familiar. Gosh. So let's see. Let's make sure I'm following the story so far. So there's a young boy who's lied to.
Yes, tricked.
Tricked, right. So he's tricked into opening the Sacred Realm for some sort of presumably older person so that the older person can touch something he's not supposed to.
Oh, God, I feel like you already know it.
No, I feel like I should. Keep going.
Okay, all right, here we go. That was the opening salvo. So I'll break these up into two parts just in case you need to go. All right.
Okay. This
is worth less points now because I'm giving you more. Redacted is determined to fix the problem.
Wait. Let me just throw in and see if actually.
Yes.
Sacred Realm, all of this is sounding so familiar.
Yes.
So, is this Ocarina of Time?
You son of a dog. Unbelievable.
It was either that or Fable.
There you go. So that is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. The words that were redacted is, as a young boy, Link is tricked by Ganondorf, the king of the Gerudo thieves. The evil human, which is such a generic thing to say, uses Link to gain access to the Sacred Realm where he places...
They call him the evil human?
The evil human. It feels like a very Nintendo description, doesn't it? Where he places his tainted hands on the Triforce and transforms the beautiful Hyrulean landscape into a barren wasteland.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, well done.
You know, Ocarina of Time, weirdly enough, is one of the only Zelda games that I've never, played all the way through.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of a silly thing. I've played most of them for Cane Rinse or just for personal enjoyment. But I played the original all the way through. I played Zelda 2 all the way through. I played the Game & Watch one all the way through. There's most of the Zelda games I've played to completion, but Ocarina of Time is one where I've played a little bit here and there. And I watched my brother, I think, play through I think all of the majority of it, all of it. I don't know. It was a long, long time ago. And for that reason, I kind of have in my mind, the general gist of the story. So I've never needed to revisit myself. But I understand that I probably should. I need to kind of have that experience, like one of myself.
It's one of those things where I feel like it hit at such the right time for me. You know, like 3D games were becoming a thing. I remember seeing the demo in a GameStop or a Best Buy and just thinking it was the coolest thing that could ever be to just get my hands on it and play it. And so it really burned itself into my memory in a way that, like, I am sure that the Zeldas of like Breath of the Wild even is a superior game in almost every way, depending on what you like in games. But I mean, technically and execution wise, it's superior in every way. But something about Ocarina of Time, I think, is like in a certain age of gamers' consciousness permanently.
That's cool. I know how much of a popular pick it is. I always kind of viewed that in the same light as Final Fantasy VII, where it's like that is always going to be a certain contingent of gamers' like absolute favorite in the series, even though like objectively we've done better since then.
Right, exactly.
But like I still like I'm not going to take that away from anyone. Like there are better Zelda games, there are better Final Fantasy games, but if that's your favorite, that's totally fine.
One of the companies that I think is like weirdly immune to this because their games feel so massive and of a moment is Rockstar. For me, I feel like it's always like whatever the latest Rockstar game is always the best because they just, you know, they take so long between releases and they really up the ante almost every time. So it'd be interesting to see if other people feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Grand Theft Auto 4, but then, I mean, going to table tennis was just like, whoa.
Table tennis was the worst Grand Theft Auto game for sure.
Okay, anyway, so let's get to some video game pitches. This was fun. I like this. Let's revisit at the end of the show.
Okay, I've got a harder one for you queued up then.
All right, cool. Then we'll wait for that. I have a very unstructured pitch today, so I don't remember if I talked about it on one of the previous shows, but I've always kind of wanted to buy a DJ controller, a turntable set, like for, electronic music mixing and stuff. And I just it was one of those things where it's like, I would put it on my, Christmas list when I was in middle school or something, just because it seemed like so cool. And, of course it never came in because it's just a little bit more expensive than the typical Christmas gift. And it was just like, how often is he going to use this? And it just came to be one of those things that I pushed in the back of my mind, like a Warhammer set or something like that, But just recently I was thinking about it again, and I was like, you know what? I'm an adult now. I could just buy it for myself. It's not that expensive. And so I did. I bought myself a turntable set, and I've been enjoying kind of playing around with it. I'm no kind of killer DJ just yet, but one of the things that I did when I bought it was I picked up a game on Steam called Spin Rhythm XD. That is it's kind of like Guitar Hero, kind of like DJ Hero in a way, but
this is a game that uses this controller?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you don't need to have one. You can control it with your mouse, but the way it works is that it's kind of a standard like note stream kind of coming down the screen, Guitar Hero style, where each note is one of two colors, and then there's a wheel at the bottom of the screen that you control with the turntable deck, or you control with your mouse, or whatever control method you use a controller. And it has kind of like a candy cane pattern of two colors. And basically you just need the notes to fall into the appropriate color. So that means kind of making micro adjustments to the wheel to make sure that you're kind of following the pathways and making sure that you line it up right. And then there's, different things that you do along the way. There's certain indications to tap the other deck, or you could press buttons on it's all kind of custom mappable. There's like bass hits, there's indications that you need to spin the wheel quickly or to scratch and stuff like that. So it's a lot like DJ Hero in a way, but it's pretty neat. It's still pretty early in production. It's still early access. There's no fail mode yet, which is a constant frustration as I'm trying to learn it. But it got me thinking, if this type of rhythm game seems like a pretty easy fit, although the way that it plays almost feels more like a like a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up in a way, like a bullet hell shooter.
Oh, because the positioning.
Yeah. It's all about kind of like very fine positioning as these different kind of colored objects are coming towards your, the hit plane in a way. And it's all about kind of like weaving through patterns and making micro adjustments and kind of changing colors and stuff on the go, like Ikaruga style. And so, it's just kind of like, that's the kind of experiential feeling that it gave me while I was playing it. And so I was wondering, what other types of games could we specifically build around a DJ controller, non-rhythm game genre? What can we do with that controller? So let's go ahead and start the clock.
I feel like something that is going to be a frame of reference here potentially is just straight up Panic's Playdate. There's that sort of, I know the developer of Katamari has that game that is a guy sort of going about his day, and he is, you essentially control the flow of time with the crank. And I wonder if we could do some time travel stuff potentially with the DJ turntable.
That's a good idea. I think the interesting thing about a DJ controller is that you have two decks, you have two record plates. And so, you can spin them independently. There's, it makes sense for one of them to control the flow of time. It makes sense for the other to control something different. I was also thinking about, I don't know, for some reason, like underwater exploration. One of the first games I ever played on PC was an Ubisoft game called Subculture, where you are like exploring an undersea landscape in a submarine. And I wonder if like something like that could also work with DJ controllers. Are there any vehicles or anything that like are actually in real life controlled by like spinning knobs or anything like that? It could be like a ham radio setup.
Yeah, I'm also thinking, that's a good question, a vehicle game. Well, you've got two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, you do have kind of pitch and yaw as a very weird disc-based like flight sim or something like that. Or even like it could be a cool, imagine like a Tron-like spaceship where the controls are all digital, and so you get like a physical manifestation of the two axes with the discs. What am I calling them? The decks, I guess is what they're going.
I should also, just to kind of make sure that all the cards are on the table here, the decks also have several buttons on each side, usually kind of queuing up effects and that kind of thing during a DJ playlist. But there's also several kind of smaller knobs in the middle if you want to do anything with those. And then, of course, the volume sliders, one for each channel, and then the fader in between the two channels. So again, we don't have to use all of them, but that's, what we have available to us.
I do like where your mind's at with the vehicle control, because this does map to a spaceship for me, like the fader in between being like a thruster control that is separate from the pitch and the yaw of the vehicle, which I guess you could do for underwater too, right? As long as you have 3-dimensional navigation. But don't let Nintendo know, they'll ruin Star Fox again if they catch wind of this.
The fader could be an interesting tool to kind of like shift the balance of power between two systems. I'm thinking like what was that game called? Affordable Space Adventures on the Wii U, where you can control different systems of a spaceship independently and kind of, but you couldn't control them all at the same time. So if you were diverting a lot of your attention to the thrusters, energy to the thrusters, then it would leave other systems, unpowered during that time. And so it's kind of a way of, you were supposed to kind of play it co-op, and so you can kind of work together to explore. But if you're playing it individually, then you'd really have to split your attention. So the crossfader can be an interesting way of kind of like shifting the power balance away from the engines and towards the weapons, or away from the shields and towards the communications fields or something. I don't know.
I wonder if there's also an angle that you could take that is like off of the Octodad series. You do a DJ Dad And DJ dad is a physics sim where a dad is a DJ but like can't get out from behind the turntable, so you have to figure out how to control his limbs and his stuff with the two turntables.
It would be pretty funny to have to like if he had some sort of a special. I was thinking like I rewatched the first season of Death Note recently. Weird parallel to be drawing here, but I like this idea of there's this this kind of god of death that's following the main character around, and nobody can see him except for this main character, and so he's got all these kind of machinations that are going on that no one else is able to observe. If this DJ deck is invisible to everyone else, but he still has to like operate his body as if it is like his hands are connected to these different pieces. And then all the buttons and knobs could be used for like adjusting things in the environment. The different buttons can be used for like repeating actions. Because, you know, the buttons are like how you make certain notes in a measure repeat. So if you want to do the like the A type of effect, then you can hit a button to do that. They can be used for like fade outs. They could be used for like a breaking effect. They could be used for setting cue points. I don't know.
I think that's interesting. The two spinning discs themselves, I could also see like a real range of like arcade possibilities. So like you could do like an interesting 2-player version of Pong where each person has 2 paddles that they're sort of controlling one for one. So I think there's a lot of cool arcade-ish experiences that you could even dress up and do almost like a musical treatment to. Like what if the Rez team or the Tetris Effect team went on and did Pong?
What if we could do an overhead boxing game where each deck controls one of the arms that kind of like comically arcs around? And so I don't know how you would control movement and positioning, because that's such an important part of boxing, but it would just be like kind of silly and fun to control those 2 arms swinging like independently of each other, and how hard you swing is how hard the punch lands on the other side.
Is there anything that would like, I mean, I'm sure there is, but like, is spinning too fast or anything like that going to damage these things? Because I'm trying to also think of like, what are the limits, the physical limits of the device?
Yeah, no, they're just kind of like wheels. And so, you know, there's, you probably shouldn't like beat down on them with a hammer, but they seem pretty resistant to all kinds of spins. You know, one of the DJ moves is to like kind of rapidly flick it and just let it spin for a while, and to do like a rapid rewind or something like that, you know?
I wonder if there's something like, if there's almost like a franchise that maps well onto this. Could you do like a Tony Hawk or something on these things? What about a skateboarding game? I feel like there's that feeling of like balancing the person on the board and also like maintaining momentum with the other wheel.
That'd be interesting. You could do a 2D side-on skateboarding game where the different decks represent your feet and how they're balanced. I don't know how you could like lift your feet or anything like that, but you could like kind of shift all of your weight to the back to manual or to ollie.
Yeah, and then you'd have to do like a 2-handed like jump almost to ollie. Wow.
Yeah, let's see. I feel like it's very close to making sense in my mind, but it's not quite there just yet. I mean, you could do surfing or anything like that that is less jump dependent, you know? Something that's more balanced than it is about that level of a kind of aerial physicality. Whereas we have just a very short amount of time left. Let's come out with one more kind of neat idea, and then we can close it down.
I know this is a 1-to-1, but I think you are remiss if you don't do a kick-ass frisbee game.
All right. I like it. Frisbee. Very cool. Okay, let's close it down and come up with a name for it. I was going to say, if we were going to do that Octodad angle, then I was going to put forward the name DJ Daddy Jeff as a nice reference to one of the pioneers of the art form.
DJ Daddy Jeff is that works.
Whereas Jeff is my father's name, so that's a little
It's an
weird
homage
for me to say.
So put this in the capsule for Father's Day so we have a real good good story to tell.
Oh boy. Do we want to just use that, or do we want to come up with something that's a little bit more cross-genre applicable?
What if you did like like you bundle it all together and you call it like the DJ deck game mega pack or something like that?
Like an Action 52 type of thing.
Yeah. Just I know Nintendo has that 52 games coming out in one, so maybe there's something there. The DJ or turntables, 55 games in one.
Are there any numbers that are associated with DJs in any way?
What is the ones and the twos? Is that anything? I feel like when people say put that on the ones and the twos is like the first and the second deck.
I always feel like there's a BPM, like the 90 beats per minute or 170 if you're doing fast club music. If we were to do if there were 90 games in one, if we can come up with an interesting thing for BPM to stand for,
best played
mini games.
That's real dumb. Yeah, best played mini games, BPM. And then
90
we do
best played mini games.
Yeah.
It's up to you, the community, to come up with the remaining 72. So feel free to write in. We'll be waiting. All right. I think that went well.
Yeah.
Q, why don't you pitch a game of your own?
Okay. So my game this week, I don't know why, maybe because he hasn't had a new game in a while, but I was thinking about Rayman. And so I started talking
it's been
to
too long, man. I've been thinking about him too.
I've been thinking about Rayman lately. I'm like, why aren't they doing more with Rayman? So one of my favorite games for the PlayStation Vita that is also on the Nintendo Switch, I think it's a PlayStation 4 game as well, is called Velocity 2X. And this is a kind of fast-paced game where you're this cool pilot that pilots a ship, and then she can also get out of the ship and do little...
That's the one with the teleporting?
Yeah, and the little platforming challenges in addition to the sort of
right
space combat.
Good game.
So I was thinking, what if you did something like that with Rayman, and you had these kind of large, maybe slightly non-linear levels where Rayman can kind of go around, almost like a Yoku's Island Express, and then there are little puzzles, these offshoots where you can detach. Well, they're not really even attached. You can kind of wander off as Rayman's limbs and take on. You have to kind of be small to get into these little areas and do mini either puzzles or platforming challenges as just one of the limbs. And the limbs could control differently depending on which limb you are. But then you can, of course, once you accomplish your task, maybe get a power-up or something like that, or solve the puzzle, you can come back, be part of Rayman again, and go about the leveling.
Very cool. Let's go ahead and start the clock. So, I have to be honest that, I love Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. Rayman Legends is my 15th favorite game of all time. It ranks for me. It's one of the greats. But I'm fairly inexperienced with the earlier Rayman games. I played the first couple worlds of Rayman 3, and I've played maybe the first world of Rayman 2. Up until it made me do the rapidly alternate between pressing two buttons type of thing that the N64 era thought was a good idea for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is as soon as you get any hint of carpal tunnel syndrome, it's just I just can't play this game for the rest of my life. And I guess that's okay.
Are we old man gamers?
I think so. I think that's what this is coming down to. But so I'm not sure if these ideas haven't been explored, but I feel like Rayman's limbs being detached, just kind of floating, opposite his body, has been relatively unexplored for being as immediately noticeable about his character design as it's been. Like, I love this idea.
Yeah, something about like I remember, and I'm not a longtime Rayman player. Like the Rayman for me is the not the Raving Rabbits, but the one that had sort of rhythmy levels. One of the most recent, I guess, the most recent Rayman.
Yeah, Legends.
That I remember playing it and falling, kind of being like, this is a great platformer. I can't believe they don't make more of it. But I kind of looked twice because I originally, again, played it on Vita. I was going through my Vita thoughts this week, if you can't tell. And I was like, is his hands and feet not really a part of him? What's the deal with that? So, the tiny screen or whatever. And so one of the things I do like is having it so that you almost get Mega Man style. I mean, Mega Man gets his upgrades from a boss or from the bosses. So maybe there's more of a hand can go off, do a puzzle, the hand gets upgraded in some way, or the hand, a hand has a certain type of attacks where it can kind of squish and pinch and pull, and it can kind of do those sort of things. Maybe you can take 2 limbs off at a time, and you need a foot to stomp or walk or kick things out of the way. Then, like, as you get like a metal hand upgrade, suddenly controlling the hand has a different weight and a different feel, and maybe it's capable of surviving different environments. And then it just kind of comes back to Rayman as a gauntlet that has been upgraded.
I want to introduce another wrinkle into the chronology of Rayman. There is very famously a magazine ad that came out around the time of Rayman 3, advertising Rayman 3, in which Rayman is standing at a urinal, and everyone around him at the neighboring urinals are looking at him in amazement. You can find this picture by Google image searching Rayman urinal, but it's implying that Rayman, I guess, has a dick, which I don't know if that means it's also detached from his body, or if that is like underneath his torso coverings during the entire game.
What if that's the one thing that is attached? Wouldn't that be more upsetting in a way?
I don't like the idea of just like, if he were a nude Rayman, just walking around with like a detached penis hanging out in front of him, just in the air randomly. So we don't have to incorporate this into the game, but like, I want to think about like...
You want to think about this? Okay.
I mean, there might be other implications to the Rayman. I mean, we can utilize, I guess, every other part of his body that we might want to explore are probably already out there in the open. Are his fingers attached to his hands? Are his toes attached to his feet? Like, what are the rules of what's attached and what's not?
Yeah, I do like or maybe I like the idea of playing through a level and getting bonuses for never detaching one's limbs or something like that. Or maybe limbs can be, now all of a sudden, I mean, I know we've pitched games in similar veins before, but maybe your limbs are destructible in some way, right? So if Rayman fully loses his... dick was the word that we chose a little bit earlier. If he loses a dick or a hand or a foot, because a bad guy hit him, then now Rayman actually has a new sort of kind of control and platforming feel. I like the idea of like Rayman hopping on one leg around a level until he can go, and that old school platformer feeling that doesn't super exist much anymore of Mario losing, taking a hit, you become small Mario, and that feeling of, I know I'm one hit away from having to go back to the checkpoint or whatever, is a very old type of game design, but I think could be an interesting sensation to create with the loss of limbs of okay, if I don't find another hand, then I know the boss is coming up and I'm going to be in real trouble here.
What is the name of that? I think it's a Suda 51 game. I can picture the cover very clearly in my mind, but I can't think of the name for some reason, where the main character has some sort of is unkillable kind of curse, and whenever he dies, his head gets blown off, and you have to roll his head back to his body to regain life. And he has a gun that he calls his big boner, but I don't remember what the game
Shadows
is.
of the Damned?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one. Shadows of the Damned. Good
I'm
job.
looking through, I'm cheating. I'm looking through Suda51's back catalog here, and I'm trying to rack my brain, but that's a PS3 error.
Right.
Oh my God.
But I do like that idea of like having limbs detached and then having to regain them somehow. So you spoke about all of these, the different kind of sub challenges being these limb rooms, these things that are too small for Rayman to fit into. So we'd have to stick one limb at a time to kind of navigate these challenges. I'd like if each limb were to be kind of different in the way that it approached the challenges. Maybe the right hand could fly, kind of like a horizontal scrolling shooter. Left hand could walk around like Glover, maybe. Maybe the foot can hop like one of those Mario boot power-ups. And
I don't know why I resisted.
Can come up with something different to do.
Yeah, I don't know why I resisted mentioning Glover, because of course you would know about Glover. I loved Glover back in the day. I also like the idea of having a really tight platforming level that is designed around an experience of counting on you losing limbs or counting on you changing limbs all the time. Maybe Rayman, as he defeats certain types of enemies, he can gain one of their limbs, or take one of their limbs and swap it out for a hand or a foot, really quickly on the fly. Imagine like a little Rayman radial menu that comes up, and you really quickly have to pick which one, and like countdown 3, 2, 1, and then pick which limb is going to be replaced. But then like getting the I'll use a Mario analogy here, getting the bee stinger or something like that, or a bee wing instead of a hand. That thing can accomplish certain things when it goes into the little mini limb puzzle challenges.
Yeah. Anyways, we're just about out of time on that one. I don't know if we've really come up with much, but I like to think that we made some progress along the way. It was all about the journey. I guess in the remaining seconds, let's summarize the interesting portions of the game that we're going to take forward. So I like the idea of these kind of mini sub rooms in which Rayman could use one of his limbs to, solve these different little puzzle challenges. I like if he fails these challenges, or there are potentially other ways to lose this limb temporarily and you have to regain them, and that would slow you down or keep you from performing certain actions. And I think that's a summary of the good ideas that we had along the way.
Well, hey, they're not all going to be good ideas, but there's something there.
What are we going to call this?
Well, I think since we are trying to, at least this is a little bit of a campaign to make Rayman's genitalia canon. If it isn't already, we could call it Rayman Total Package.
Feels like a Ratchet and Clank game.
It really does. There's the Raving Rabbids. There's Legends. Are the other ones just flat numbers?
Well, there's Origins and Legends, which is kind of the new series. There's the Endless Runner games for iOS, which are like Fiesta Run and Jungle Run. I don't know.
So they're all kind of, I guess like those are all verbs at the end. Maybe Legends and Origins have like an epic quality to them. Mm-hmm. What is like
Rayman Extremities?
Extremities,
which speaks to it being a spin-off, but also it kind of speaks to the limbs focus.
What if you called it Rayman Extremis?
Rayman Extremis, like he's some sort of a terrorist?
No, not extremists. Extremis, as in extremities.
Oh, is that a
Extremis
conjugation?
I think it's like I think so.
Okay. All right. Let's put that in and see how that works.
Fair enough. At minimum, it sounds slightly Latin, so we've got something there.
All right. Let's circle over to our community and see what they have for us this week. All right. We are, again, running a bit low on game pitches. If you have anything, then feel free to write in. We will read it very soon. Mike Esguerra says, I have just a broad idea for a game in mind, but I'm curious what you can do with it. The idea is for a Plague Inc. style game where instead of a disease, the player must spread the language of their nation around the world to become the dominant means of communication on the planet. Some factors that could impact the spread are, for example, how trade helped Arabic numerals become the most commonly used numeral symbols in the world, or the way that the popularity of some dishes, like pasta or sushi, has made those words recognizable in many countries. On the other hand, geographical barriers, wars, or different forms of government might stop or resist the spread of languages to some areas. It may be a very wide, cerebral topic to try to gamify without a lot of extra study, but I'm eager to hear what you make of it. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and start the clock on that one.
What I like about this is it is kind of taking a exploded view. He meant, Mike mentions Plague Inc. here, but how can you not think about civilization when you listen to this, of like the cultural victory, right? Or the religious victory conditions of that game. So I wonder, like, what does it mean to spread a language? I guess it's like going to a place and insisting on using it.
Yeah, but you think like to become a culture's dominant language, it feels like you have to get in really, really early, perhaps. I don't want the game to just kind of like dead end after a few thousand years have passed, I want, like you think about how much English has infiltrated the rest of the world. It's been, very commonly spoken amongst most of the worlds, primarily because England and other European countries did some terrible things throughout history and ended up colonizing and enslaving a significant portion of the globe, which has kind of led to English being the kind of default language in a way when you travel internationally. So it's kind of a mixed history there, but as much as English has kind of permeated other cultures, there have been some cultures that have embraced English as their primary or secondary language. Think about a lot of the kind of African or some of the South Asian countries, but there are some that maintain like their own language system, but utilize English sounding words to speak about ideas that were new kind of post the introduction of English culture English culture. So I'm thinking about like Japanese specifically, how they'll write or they'll say, words that have originated in the time since like the 1940s or the 1930s, or, whenever we became kind of like more integrally connected to Japan. They'll pronounce a lot of them like the English pronunciation of the word, but they'll write it out in katakana. So I don't know if that would be like what shields Japan from fully embracing, English language.
I wonder if there's like a simplicity and a complexity. So I wonder if like, big surprise that the designer is going here, but I wonder if there's something we've kind of touched upon this, I think, in previous pitches, but designing a language and what goes into designing a language, and like, does a language need to be...
If we're talking about pure design, how well the language works, then that is not a parallel for real life. Let's say that the dominant languages in the world are English and Chinese, and both of them are not very well structured.
But so English and Chinese, you said?
Yeah, we're just thinking about like number of people,
Yeah, I also wonder if there's something are those two, I believe those two languages are like non-gendered as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, could be.
So maybe it's not necessarily like efficiency, but maybe simplicity or memorability. I feel like
there's something to being inefficient too.
Yeah,
where,
right.
Like all of the European, like the Romance languages can like more or less kind of figure out what the other ones are saying. You know, if you're going between like French and Spanish, then like you could probably, even if you didn't speak a word of the other language, you could probably have a decent enough conversation, or at least point somebody else towards the bathroom. Like those languages are somewhat compatible. Whereas English is such like a weird outlier of a language that just like follows no rules but its own, that if you're going to do any business, you're going to have to learn the language.
Specific.
So
And
maybe
that's
kind
true
of
of Chinese
forces
too.
people. Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Call up a linguist. Maybe we've got something here.
A certain stubbornness of the language that requires absolute knowledge, or you'll just be completely useless.
You know, I think that you actually touched upon something that's really important here. English and Chinese are also both the languages of business. I wonder if like the Plague Inc. style language game is also in some part about like growing and managing one's economy, because essentially like propagating a language is not only like, maybe you get a very simple, at the beginning you get to design your own language and decide like how it sounds. You could even have a little robot, right, that just kind of makes these sounds. Like you could have that Microsoft Sam or whoever that can speak the language. Hopefully these things have gotten better since Microsoft Sam. But then you, after you design the language and kind of how it sounds, you're kind of in a simulation of both like trying to spread the influence. You're seeing if you create different religions or different. You're basically seeing what cultural triggers. You're trying to create a hit song in the language. You're trying to. I always. I mean, for me, the ABCs. Right. Every American child has the ABC song like stuck in their head. It's the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star song, and like it helps that our alphabet is like concise in that way, or there's a sing-song equality to it. So I wonder if there's things like dressings or attributes that you could also use to spread the influence of your language.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I mean, certain languages, like they don't, when you hear a song from a culture, like often that song does not work in another language, right?
Yeah, right.
Like all of the JRPG games, when they translate those songs to English, you're like, this is slightly strange sounding.
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of, it feels like it's dancing kind of dangerously close to having like choosing a certain like race of people and kind of like propagating their culture and spreading it throughout the world. You know, it feels very kind of like, feels a bit imperialist, and like it could be used by the wrong people for the wrong reasons. It would be great if we can kind of microcosm all of this, and maybe it's like the group of cavemen that have just evolved the capacity for language, and it is really just like, you know, a handful of people in a tribe, and it's all about kind of like spreading it very, very close by, or just like a group of tribes throughout a certain region, something that doesn't imply that people from a certain part of the world are qualitatively different or better than or less than people from another part of the world, which is something that I know a lot of real world people struggle with thinking about.
I wonder if there's something to, there was a game recently, I don't want to mention the game if people haven't played it yet, but it is a popular recent game where you, the player, encounter someone who speaks a different language. And it is your job to sort of interact with the tools that you have in front of you to decipher what this individual is saying to you. And so I wonder if the way to spread language is really to teach language. And the way to teach a language effectively, okay, now this is a broad generalization, obviously I don't teach languages, but my hypothesis is a way to teach language effectively is to learn the other person's language so that you can tell them, for example, your word for chair is my word for chair. And maybe this game is a lot more Mass Effectian or something. I know Mike's coming in with a Plague Inc. style game, but maybe this is about like, it could be a zoomed out view where you just are like people talking to other people, but you're going around to different leaders. They're speaking to you. You don't understand them. They don't understand you. And you are trying to be the first person on the map to really understand the construction of the languages that have been generated that you're dealing with, and then to teach them what the construction of your language is that matches the parts of their language.
I wonder if instead of teaching them, chair means chair, and what their words mean in your language, that requires a certain amount of investment or wanting to learn that not everyone might have. If there's no reason to learn a language, then like you're very unmotivated to undertake such a arduous and difficult task. So maybe we can kind of take the model of, English into Japanese, where you're introducing new concepts. I always think about like, how much German can the average person speak? Not much, except for words that really can only be used in German. So, there's no other word for schnitzel, or, a lot of foods don't translate.
Yeah.
There's a Schadenfreude. It's a very useful word that we just don't have a word for in English. And so we've just defaulted to using the German word for it. And so, maybe after the introduction of enough new concepts, this could be kind of a simulation, kind of like a Civilization has aspects of this, where you are balancing different trees of investment of energy and time into perhaps researching the language or building the structure of the language, especially if this is kind of like a pidgin language emerging into a full-fledged language, some Tower of Babel type of scenario where you're starting from scratch and you have to build something of your own. You could, put some resources towards developing the language, and therefore it would be more useful. Perhaps more people would embrace it because it has, uses across all different types of situations. Maybe there's alternatively, you could put resources towards popularizing it or advertising it, marketing it. It's a kind term for it, like making it the thing that the popular kids on the playground are speaking. And that way, people just day to day, when they're using slang or whatever, then it comes through in that language. I'm sure there's a lot to be gained from like places that have dual languages and how people kind of switch in and out of the different languages, like Creole areas or, Eastern Canada, where there's a lot of
or
English
even Mexico,
and French.
like it's definitely Spanish English,
yeah,
or
for
Canada
sure.
French English. I think like to the email of the virus is trying to take over the world. A language is kind of trying to take over the world, but it also, for me, in many ways, is like, can you at least become the second language that many places speak? Because I think that that's what you'll find is like most places speak whatever their native language is, and then they also have like the fallback language or a language so that they can, communicate with maybe the other countries in their region or something like that. So it's an interesting game, and it's all about, or an interesting idea for a game rather. And to me, it all comes down to what method of influence do you pick to be the proof point of what a language is? Is it like you could like very Civilization, right? You can have the biggest army, you can occupy countries, and guess what? You're all learning language 6. That's the title of my new language 6. It's not a great title, but it doesn't matter because I'm occupying it. But or is it an influence thing? Is it, I love the idea of this just being about generating media in your language, making songs and doing posters or making funny videos or something like that. Like, I wonder what the future of language looks like now that, a kid can grow up with access to YouTube videos in any language they want. Can somebody learn a language just by being exposed through autoplay content? I don't know.
Anyways, we are out of time there. Let's come up with a name for this and wrap it up. There's the phrase "watch your language."
Watch your language. That's not bad. What do you, I got one for you because I know you like a good pun. World of Wordcraft.
That's a good one. I like that. Let's claim it for our own. All right. Thank you very much, Mike Esguerra, again, for the wonderful game pitch. And we might just get around to doing another one of your emails next week if we don't receive other new game ideas in the meantime. As we said, we're running a little bit low right now. So if you don't want us to start digging through our spam folder, then please do email us at playwrightcast@gmail.com. You can go to our website, playwrightcast.com/pitch. You can tweet us at playwrightcast, and in all of those instances, it is spelled PLAYWRITECAST.
Yeah, and we've said before on the show, it doesn't have to be a big, huge production of a pitch. You could simply say, hey, here's 2 games. Can you smash them together? Maybe you've been playing some old games for comfort during the COVID crisis. Maybe share a couple of comfort games that you've been playing, and we can see if we can smash them together and make the ultimate comfort food, which I guess is like, ravioli filled with macaroni or something like that?
A lot of pasta.
Special thank you to PROTODOME for the use of our theme song, Hello World, off the album Blue Noise. And when you get a chance, go check out the other great shows on the Kane and Rinse Podcast Network, like Kane and Rinse and Sound of Play and The Sausage Factory. Great shows, hours of gaming entertainment.
Take us out of the show. You had another round of this
government memo games.
Game? Yeah, government memo games.
Okay.
Up with.
Here we go. I'm going to get a little harder on you. Here we go. Are you ready?
Okay.
In a large American metropolis, a man named Redacted, a private investigator of the supernatural, is seeking revenge for the death of his Redacted. The world is waiting, for Redacted is no ordinary man. And when his father's Redacted in hand, he must enter the Redacted and avenge mankind.
It was sounding like Max Payne for a little bit there.
A little bit, yeah.
Let's see. So there's an investigator.
An investigator, yes.
This is interesting.
It's a short summary, too. That's the whole summary. There's no extra part to it, dude.
Okay, all right. All right, so let's run through this kind of bit by bit once more. So
in an American metropolis.
Right, so we're talking big city.
Big city. A man named Redacted. You can't know that. A private investigator of the supernatural is seeking revenge for the death of his Redacted. The world is waiting, for Redacted is no ordinary man. And with his father's Redacted in hand, he must enter the Redacted and avenge mankind.
He must enter the Redacted is the most interesting part of that.
Yes.
This sounds like sounds like Control as well, which is, obviously not a male main character, so it wouldn't work here, but...
One of the things that I think this game does expose is video game plots get a little samey.
Let's see. So he has to enter something. This feels like an alternate dimension or something like that to expose. He has to take something from his father, it's a family heirloom.
If you need to phone a friend, I'm willing to give you either the game's rating or the original era of platform.
Since this comes from Metacritic, would there be any little quotes of reviews that wouldn't give away the game?
Oh,
but
that's fun. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I got one here. Okay. Hold on, I just want to pick the right one. Okay, here we go. Quite possibly, this is from Hot Games. I gave it a 100. Mm-hmm. Quite possibly the game of the year. If you liked Onimusha, then Redacted will definitely possess you.
Okay, so possess seems like a pun used in that case. Let's see. I'm thinking this is something like Hotel Dusk or Paranormal Investigators. There was a series of games on the PlayStation 2 that focused around a detective and one of them was a Blair Witch spin-off game.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, PlayStation 2 is just about the right place to be looking, my guy.
All right.
I do like the idea of the review as the hint. That's very funny.
All
right, here's a GameSpy quote. Here's a GameSpy review excerpt. The fastest, sexiest, loudest, and like all things spawned from the bowels of hell, intensely addictive assault on your senses to hit the PS2 thus far.
Oh gosh, is this like Killer 7?
Ooh, that is incorrect. Here's the summary of the game, non-redacted. I'm declassifying the summary.
Okay, all right.
In a large American metropolis, a man named Dante, a private investigator of the supernatural,
What?
is seeking revenge for the death of his mother and brother. The world is waiting, for Dante is no ordinary man, and with his father's sword in hand, he must enter the demon realm and avenge mankind.
All right, okay. I did not know that Dante was a private investigator.
Yeah. I don't really recall that either, but now that they say it, Devil May Cry is the name of the investigative unit that he runs. So there you go. Devil May Cry on the PlayStation 2.
That's a good one. I like this game. We can circle back to this. This is fun. This is a good way to kind of inject some new life into the podcast.
I'm going to compile a good list of them, and I'll range them from easier to hard, just so I don't give you too many oppressive games in a row.
Before we close out here, I want to find out what this Blair Witch game was on the PS2 and what its prequel was.
You know what's really stupid is I just clicked on it said Devil May Cry, also available on Switch. So I clicked on the Switch version of Devil May Cry, different summary.
Okay. Legends
tell of a demon swordsman named Sparta who awoke to justice and rebelled against it. But you know what? Look at here we go. A dark figure named Dante, private investigator of the supernatural. So they both get there.
I'm just finding the recent Blair Witch game. I said PlayStation 2.
The new one or an older one?
No,
because the new one's just called Blair Witch again, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's a PlayStation 2 game. It's a Japanese horror game that was like super niche. It spawned a sequel which utilizes the same core characters as the super niche Japanese horror game that was like, I guess it must have been like a sponsorship thing, but it was tied into the fiction of the Blair Witch. And so it was like funded as a Blair Witch video game, but it was really just like a passion project from this team that had created this niche Japanese horror game. I guess we can put that out to the audience. If you know what game we're talking about, then please write in, because it's kind of driving me crazy right now.
Blair Witch? Yeah, I definitely don't know. But that is why I get to be the quizzer.
All right. That'll do it for us this week. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.